Kia ora tato. Sat down and I thought, well, people might not have noticed I was actually arrived on stage. So I thought, well, I'll stand up first and I'll very shortly sit down. It is a great pleasure to have you all here in the room this evening, and to all of you online as well, for this very special edition of Auckland Conversations, Building a Wellbeing Economy from the City Up, the role of cities in creating an economy fit for the 21st century. And it's a great privilege to have Catherine Trebeck, a very pivotal and instrumental person in all of this globally, here as our speaker and for our conversation this evening. And I'll, of course, be introducing Catherine in due course. It's my great privilege and pleasure to be facilitating our conversation this evening. I'm Rod Oram, and I was about to say I'm proud to say I'm a business journalist. That's a little loaded in several respects. And so when I say that there's nothing wrong with capitalism, you might expect me to say that as a business journalist. But I always add this rider: there's nothing wrong with capitalism, it's just that we haven't tried it properly yet. And so we've become very good at financial capitalism, but of course that has horribly screwed the system and the planet and people's lives. So the question then becomes, how do we bring all the capitals together, whether it be ecological or human or social or technical, and then finance just becomes a servant of that rather than the master of that. So as a business journalist, that's the kind of capitalism I'm interested in. And that's very much going to be the nature of our conversation this evening with Catherine. A little bit of housekeeping first. The toilets are out in the foyer, but then off to the left-hand side, over that side. No smoking or vaping inside the venue. The hotel says that guests can smoke outside. Presumably that's kind of like way outside, kind of Albert Street or wherever. Next, in the unlikely event of an emergency, you will hear an alarm and guests will evacuate the hotel via the glass doors facing Albert Street out there, and then take the stairs down to the through those glass doors, and then take the stairs downstairs to the lobby, and then exit out through to meet outside the Huawei Tower, which is the office building next to us. And finally, please could you make sure your mobiles are turned to silent, but please do leave them on, because as I'm about to explain, we'll be doing questions via Slido, and so you'll need your phone for that. And of course, you're very welcome to be prolific on social media with the hashtag Wellbeing during the course of the conversation to help get the word out. So the format for this evening is very straightforward. Catherine will be presenting, and then we're going to have a long period of time for discussion. I will probably start with a few questions that that occur to me, but we really want this to be very strongly a conversation. So that's why we're using Slido. And if you go to slido.com, and let me give you some Wi-Fi help first. If you go to Wi-Fi, you'll find IHG Rewards, which is the hotel, and a free Wi-Fi network there. And when you click on that, the access code for that is Welcome 2023. So that's going to give you free Wi-Fi. And then there you go for Slido. If you go to slido.com and then enter the event code, hashtag wellbeing, that will give you a very easy way to ask questions. We'll also, particularly obviously for people online, so please do have lots of questions come through that way. And here in the room, we're going to have two people with microphones, and I'll reiterate this when we get to the question time. But I'm just going to let them take the microphones to people who raise their hand and want to ask a question, and then I'll be looking to see where those microphones are, rather than me saying, oh, here's somebody who wants wants to ask a question, can you get a microphone to them? So that's how we'll do that. Also on another hashtag to use on social media is hashtag AKL Conversations. And so we always try to ensure also that Auckland Conversation events are inclusive and accessible, and on-demand viewing for the event and a full transcript and captioning of the event will be available on the Auckland Conversations website in the next few days. So please do pass the word about that there. Just a tiny bit of scene setting before we get going, because we're all so deeply conscious of the huge challenges that humanity needs to address to make sure that we are in right relationship with the living planet, our life support system, so we stop degrading it, and we make sure that our economy and society works for everyone. And so this seemed like two straightforward goals, but obviously phenomenally complicated about how we do that. I'm a huge fan of the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, and back in his annual State of the Planet report back in 2020, he said, "We are facing a devastating pandemic," and of course that still lingers on, "new heights of global heating, new lows of ecological degradation, and new setbacks in our work towards global goals for more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development." To put it simply, the state of the planet is broken. Dear friends, humanity is waging war on nature, and this is suicidal. And not just suicidal towards nature, of course, but suicidal towards the whole nature of society as well. So that's a very broad way of looking at the context of the whole well-being economy work. And that's why it's a huge pleasure to have Dr. Catherine Trebeck, co-founder of the Wellbeing Economy Alliance, with us. And she's here because the Wellbeing Economy Alliance Aotearoa, led by Gareth Hughes, who's sitting down here in the front row, a former distinguished Green MP and a very excellent biographer of Jeanette Fitzsimons, I would add in passing. Gareth and the Alliance Aotearoa had brought Catherine to New Zealand, and in New Zealand style has kept her very busy in her time here, almost done. So she's, fortunately, we're towards the end of her trip, so she's been learning, I think, quite a lot about us along the way. So Catherine is a political economist, writer and advocate for economic systems change, and she co-founded the Wellbeing Alliance and We All Scotland, its Scottish hub. And she's now based dual base between Scotland and Australia, and is involved in all manner of international efforts and initiatives. I won't launch into the whole long list here. I'm sure some of them will come up in our conversation in due course. But crucially, Catherine instigated the Wellbeing Economy Governments Group, WEGO, which comprises of Scotland, New Zealand, Finland, Wales, Iceland, and Canada. And I find that list an interesting one, and that's going to be a subject of that we will pick up on. And so it's a great pleasure to welcome Catherine to the stage to give us her presentation, and after which we will just launch into our discussion. So a very warm welcome, please, for Catherine. Thank you.